Hey, what's up everybody, BDF 44 coming at you another video. Alright, so I was working on a video just now, talking about whatever the beginning of the video was, and of course it cut me off. As soon as I said a certain specific word, started talking about an update is scheduled, and you can do the update now. And I'm like, you really stopped my video, you stopped my recording to tell me about an update on a phone that I've been putting off for 3 days. At the exact moment I'm recording, I don't know if that's a feature in the phone, but it probably shouldn't be, given the fact that people record emergencies and things of that nature. People record situations that need to be staying recorded while they're in danger and things of that nature. And you're trying to tell me that this thing cut off my recording. Not only that, but shined a bright light on my phone. So if I'm hiding or something like that, or I'm recording something in secret, trying to save my life, this thing just killed me because it just shined a bright white light on my face telling me that I had an update. So I just want to thank T-Mobile for getting me killed there. Anyway, so as we move forward, I'm going to get back to what it is I was talking about before I was so rudely interrupted. Essentially what I was trying to converse with the camera about before I was cut off was that paying attention to all the stuff that's going on as I have been. Kanye West, Kyrie Irving, you know, the conversation around the Jewish faith and ethnicity, religion. And of course, Kanye West specifically is doing everything he can to point out pretty much the same thing we've been pointing out on this camera, which is there are people, quote unquote, behind the curtain. That's really the only way I know how to describe it, because you don't really know who's who when you're in the level I'm on, but you know what it looks like. So that's really all you can say. But the people behind the curtain who are in control of a lot of what it is that we see, based on their control over the business of entertainment, basically, and how they've nestled themselves comfortably in position to keep that business going, so that they are relied upon in order for a lot of the things that we appreciate to be on TV and heard and seen across platforms and things of that nature. They control those platforms. In a lot of those cases, they control what it is that we say and see. So Kanye is essentially trying to point out that these guys are horrible guys, just like we have. It's not that we're certain that they're horrible people. It's just that they practice horrible things that don't align for people to be, you know, seen as equal in a world where that's something we really, really need for ourselves. In a world where the start of a lot of different circumstances started in horror, and a lot of different empires and things that we benefit from today started in the foundation of racism and hate. So in order for us to get along today, there needs to be some understanding of how best to move forward. There does need to be some structure in our society so that people aren't beating each other over things that happened before they were born. And so as I stand in one of these groups as a black person, I understand that I can find myself triggered by certain things that are naturally offensive to our society, that I could be manipulated by some of those triggerings by people behind the curtain who stand to benefit from me moving one way or direction, or voting one way or another, or what have you. So in the midst of all of this, we just see an opportunist who's been consistent and steady in this position to give us what it is that we need when we reach up, and slap us on the hand when we decide to get out of line when it's reaching up for what it is that we're dreaming for. And that, my friend, doesn't feel like a good thing at all. As a person who has talent and believes himself to be talented, that notion that those people exist has derailed my entire life, because it's made it so that I haven't wanted what I've defined as success based on the muzzle that they put on your mouth upon receiving that success. I haven't wanted it. I don't want $8 billion that they could take from me. I don't want to have to watch my mouth because of my allegiances professionally to them, because of my desire to be famous toward you. I've decided not to chase fame. I've decided not to chase the numbers. I've decided to avoid what I consider to be success. Not because I was afraid of my talent or thought that I couldn't make it, but because I was afraid of what my mind and my soul would be if I found myself behind the curtain, or as a subordinate to one of those people. I'm afraid that I would end up getting myself and people that I care about in a whole lot of trouble because of my mouth, my intent on not conforming to certain things that don't make sense to me, despite it being in my best interest to do so contractually. It's why you don't know who I am. And what I'm hopeful for is that more people who are talented, more people who believe in themselves, won't deliberately shy away from success because of the presence of that curtain, like I did. Shy away from the notion of chasing that success, even if I'm lying to myself and telling myself it's the curtain that's keeping me from chasing the success instead of my own failures and fears. I'll disarm anybody who doesn't want to listen to what I'm saying. That could be the case, but it's a damn good excuse in place. It definitely disarms me from having to chase it if that's what you think I'm doing. And the point is, they're there. They are there to manipulate, ruin, and, in my opinion, sway the minds of not only people in my group, but the minds of people in everybody's group who's watching my group. And we're going to define each other by way of them. And that has been wrong, and it continues to be wrong, and we're seeing where the hypocrisy actually is in regards to that. So I think Kanye is going about trying to make the point of the people behind the curtain are bad guys in a very, very elaborate and a disrespectful way, and in a way that doesn't allow for many people to receive what it is that he's saying head on. And most importantly, allows for those behind the curtain and their subordinates to smear and manipulate his point to look as bad as they need it to look so that no one ever asks them any questions at all. He's hurting himself, and he's hurting our cause in regards to what it is we're trying to understand. But I don't believe that him doing that is something that people like myself should allow to derail what it is that our focus is. Kanye West is trying to very, very awkwardly and disrespectfully make a very specific point that is not lost upon me at this moment. Essentially, his support, quote unquote, of Hitler is this here exactly. The people behind the curtain have done, according to Ye and what it is that he's seen and studied or whatever, according to his truth, he believes they've done worse stuff than Hitler. He says that the body count, well, he doesn't say this, but this is what I'm taking from what it is that he's trying to display in his analogy, that their body count is higher than Hitler's, that the torture that they've applied on humans has been worse than Hitler, that their control on the world has been worse than Hitler, and that they have contributed great things to this earth as well. And we don't point out the wrongdoing that those behind the curtain do, but instead adhere to what it is that they want and celebrate them, unlike a celebration that will never be applied to a guy like Hitler, who we look at for all the evil and bodies that he dropped, who we look at for all the torture that he did, who we look at for all of the wrongdoings that he did, and we should. But those behind the curtain don't get seen as Hitler. Those behind the curtain who are doing all this evil and have been doing even worse in his mind, we don't look at them, but we get to sit here and let them tell us who we cannot experience, who we cannot focus on, who we cannot show appreciation to, who we cannot look at the good side of, but we're not to apply that to them. Why not? When they've killed just like Hitler killed, when they've slaughtered just like Hitler slaughtered, when they, in his mind, that's what they've done. Now, I'd say to Kanye, you better prove that, brother. That's the only thing but brother, you can't come out here and do that without giving us details of what they did behind the curtain. You can't just tell us that you know something and not tell us what you know. This is the problem with the Hebrews to Negro situation. People aren't experiencing the movie. They're taking what someone else is telling them about what it is that's in the movie, and then they're applying opinion that's contrary to that movie based on what it is they're told. They're not actually experiencing it themselves. So, to me, I just don't think this is the right way to make that point. I don't think that you can effectively get people to understand your point if all you're doing is offending them outright. You're telling me, if I'm a Jewish person, that the person who did all of the horrible things to my people is to be praised because some people within my group are doing some things that you think is as bad as Hitler, but you're not bringing to the table to tell what it is. Here's the problem I have with this conversation, and this is why I'm upset. with Ye's point of view, because he's not acknowledging that there are Jewish people that ain't got nothing to do with what's going on behind the curtain. And if we can't admit or acknowledge that, then we're really not looking at this thing the right way mathematically. And math matters, man. Just like it matters when they're applying their blanketed thoughts to black people or throwing us all in cages for 400 years. So goes the same when we assess what it is we're looking at as groups with people behind the curtain, who's all corrupt, who's all not, who's being lied to, who's doing the lying. I just don't think that it's as simple as saying all this, all that, just like it ain't with us. So if we're going to truly get justice, we got to make sure the math makes sense, or otherwise we're just creating more injustices invertedly. So Kanye needs to understand where he's applying the methods of the oppressor. See, this is the problem that black people run into. We need to be creators of our attacks. We don't need to mimic the oppressor in regards to how we defend ourselves, because the oppressor did not effectively defend himself, which is why all that he's doing is hitting the fan right now. If you're going to be a follower, black people, and follow the oppressor's ways, then you're going to run into the oppressor's fate just the same. And this is why we need to understand what it is that we are. This is why identity and understanding who you are is so important. So you know what to apply that aligns with who it is that you actually are. And people tell you who you are and you do things that don't align with that, your spirit is off and your math doesn't add up. This is why it's important that we continue this conversation. We need to know if we're the Hebrews. We need to know if we're this or that. For that reason. For that exact reason. Because a lot of these people who run around, they know exactly who they are. Most of the people who walk the earth, they can trace their history back to the beginning stages of whatever. Us, we got to dig through lost stuff. We got to talk to people who lied to us and force the truth out of them in order to get the answers to what it is that we need. What ship were we on? Where's the document for that ship? Where did that ship originally come from? Who are those people? They know, they didn't tell us, simply put. So this is what it comes down to. You get mad at Kanye West for smearing praise on Hitler. Will you take a look at what it is he's actually trying to convey, or are you just going to ignore the deeper point? Because that's what all the people behind the curtains, celebrities and subordinates want to do. They want to look at what Kanye's saying, but they don't want to dig deeper into what it is that he's thinking. But if you look at how they handle other people in other situations, they do not apply that thought, and that is deliberate, which is why I know who they are. See, people behind the curtain, they need to understand that their subordinates are not in the dark. We see you because we can see who you're connected to. All of you little celebrities, all you little, gung-ho for this side or gung-ho for that side people, you need to understand that we can see the rope you're tied to. Every single one of you, I can see clearly based on your affiliations. So you need to be careful about what you're saying, because if I can see you, everybody else can too. You're not low. It's a lot of y'all. Y'all got the minds of the people. I watch you on Instagram every single day, pandering to people, separating people, using my group to pander to my people. And you know we're in the dark about these things that the curtain do. A lot of these people don't even believe there's a curtain. They believe what they're told. You're evil if you align with anything that doesn't align with the people behind the curtain, and their enemies are your enemies. Well, in Hitler's case, I believe it is the case. I think Hitler was our enemy, black people. I don't think that there was anything that we could have negotiated with Hitler that would have ultimately saved our lives. I think if he had an opportunity to throw us in that cage and burnt us up, he would have had a good time doing so. In fact, he probably would have enjoyed that just as much. And so for those who want to find some reasoning in Hitler, just understand he would have fed you poison, and that would have been it. If he would have sat down with you, you'd have been eating poison. So the most important thing we need to understand is that that is not the person you want to make friends with spiritually in any way. That's not how you want to align yourself, and Kanye West needs to understand that. To make your point, you do not bring up one of the worst people to ever walk the earth in comparison to people that you feel are the worst people to walk the earth. Bad is bad, and neither one of them deserves any acknowledgement and positivity. Not the people behind the curtain, nor that Hitler character. They're all bad if they're dropping bodies and doing evil. They're all bad if they're manipulating people and ultimately separating people because of their race, and separating people because of what they can do for them. Not work that in any way. We don't like that energy in any way, and we're not going to take it for the don't. So I want Kanye West to look at what it is that he's asking us to acknowledge. And I want him to also look at what people are asking him to acknowledge and realize that there is a better way to make his point, that the people behind the curtain are worse than Hitler. I receive your point, and there's a better way to make it without playing with people's pain. And we've talked about this. I don't like the fact that Kanye plays with people's pain, bro. I don't like that. I don't like when anybody does it, but I especially don't like it when Ye does it, because he's somebody who's felt a lot of pain in his life. But he doesn't respect pain to say that when someone's feeling pain, they're not going to be clear-minded to listen to any and every point you're trying to make, especially if the subjects that involve your point are directly tied to my pain. There's something called triggering, Kanye. And when you bring up certain things, you trigger good people into bad thoughts that turn them into bad people. Hear me clearly. You're playing with people's pain. What does that mean? You are coercing them, Kanye, into sin. Why? Because you're pushing the revenge button, just like they push on us when they continue to invest money in the spin the block narrative that our young kids is on right now. When they play with our pain by investing in our situations of conflict and pinning people against each other like Young Boy and Dirk. They want to pin them boys against each other. They're trying to pin everybody against each other so that they continue to play with their pain, make the point that we're bad people in the eyes of everybody else. Do you see what's going on here? Mimicking the oppressor, Ye, you're doing the exact same thing they're doing, and I'm pointing it out. And I know it's purposeful, but what I'm telling you is that should not be the way you make your examples. Displaying hypocrisy to the enemy by way of hypocrisy doesn't make you an enlightening person. It makes you a mimicker of the enemy. They're not looking to learn any points from you. They're not looking to receive your wisdom. They're looking to destroy it, Kanye. That's all you're doing, is giving them all the ammo to do so, brother. Their hypocrisy is understood. They have invested in our pain. They have played with us. They have toyed with us. They have been an instigator in between us and the issues we have for a very long time. And we're not supposed to acknowledge that. I get that. More than I should get that, unfortunately. Growing up in this world where everything's catered to us, not understanding that, not questioning that, questioning ourselves before we question them. This is the problem that the black community is running into. A lot of us are questioning ourselves before we question them. We're getting mad at Kanye for pointing out things that we need to see in order to get free. I'm not mad at Kanye for pointing out those things. I just understand that Kanye's not doing himself, his family, or us any favors when doing it this way. Because he's playing with people's pain just like they play with ours today. Two wrongs ain't never made a right. Fighting fire ain't never put out a fire. I think the people behind the curtain need to be seen for what it is that they do, but we can't treat that subject like they treat Hebrews to Negroes and not give us details and just tell us, look over there, they're evil and don't look again. No, we got to do it way more detailed than they're willing to. We got to be honest. And the first thing about being honest is looking at your sins first. When I get in the shower, as I pray every day, and I pray about Kanye and Kyrie and everybody else on that list, one of the things that I try to do in those prayers every day is acknowledge the evil in my own heart. The wrongdoings, the guilt that I have to pay for, stuff that I may have to burn for no matter how much good I do. Because it's important to understand that from a space, we start as flawed, as sinners, just like everybody else we're trying to hold accountable. It's the best part of holding someone else accountable is recognizing where you fall short so that you can have the accountability when speaking. And a guy like Kanye West knows that he falls short, but he's pointing out the guys behind the curtain's shortcomings without pointing out his own. As a result, they're able to smear his in whatever way they want to. The best way to hold credibility with doing what Kanye's doing is to first acknowledge that you've done things wrong, that you've idolized after these people, that you wanted what they had, that you put them on a pedestal that you probably shouldn't have, that you put them before God. You need to know what you did wrong, yay, so that you can make right what needs to be made right. Because as long as you're doing things wrong, you're playing into their hands. I'm not saying you got to know what's right or wrong. I'm just saying you got to pray first, because it's obvious you're not. You're running around surrounding yourself with people that are not right because they're enemies of the enemy. Brother, the enemy has bad enemies too. This is the one mistake that a lot of people make when they're at war. They think that just because the enemy has enemies, that enemy ain't your enemy. That enemy's your enemy too. Sometimes that enemy wants to kill you just as bad as that enemy does. And if you try to align yourself with that enemy thinking that you're going to defeat this enemy, you're going to be swallowed by both of them. And then they'll probably end up shaking hands behind the scenes because they hate you more than they hate each other. And that is something that we need to understand, black people. They hate you more than they hate each other. They don't know how not to, man. They were taught how to hate us. They were taught how to discard of us. They were taught how to laugh at us. Some of the stuff they look at don't even move their heart that way. They just been disciplined a certain way to hate us. We need to understand this stuff is indoctrinated in their spirit. And it's going to be example and love. And dare I say something that really, really offends a lot of people, but outbreeding. Simple breeding of more people in their family so they can see examples of people that don't look like them so they can love them inherently. That's what needs to happen. In order for the racism to end, that of which makes racism possible needs to go away. And a lot of people are fighting that for good reason, I imagine. But it's futile. People are going to keep screwing. People are going to keep breeding. And they're not going to look like each other. And you're going to have to deal with it. All you purist Hitler-like mugs, you're going to have to understand it ain't going to be no more, y'all. Hitler was fighting a losing battle. People are going to breed. You got to accept this. You got to understand this. You need to not be offended by this truth. I don't care what your people look like today. Eventually, y'all just going to turn into some mulatto or something else, because that's just what this is, man. Unless we can find a way to effectively get off this planet and effectively isolate to a planet by ourselves where it's only black planet, believe you me, you ain't staying that way. So all this fighting you doing to try to keep staying, we gonna stay pure, all this like Hitler was on, believe you me, it fails 100% of the time. Look at what's going to happen. The same earth stays spinning, same people stay on said earth. What happens after that? That you're going to go to one side of the earth and just chill forever and hope to God that none of your daughters fly over there to meet any of those people? I mean, when does that start? When does that happen? It doesn't work. It's not real. And that's why I tell people that this Puritan nonsense, oh, I'm going to do us, it's just us and our group. Nah, you see, it didn't work for Hitler. It ain't going to work for you either. He killed 6-7 million people. It didn't work for him. It ain't going to work for you. You got to do this together, people. It is the human race. It just is, man. Whether we like each other or not, whether we have bad history or not, whether we can kill each other's sisters and brothers or not, man, the reality is we're going to be moving forward. You are not the last people to walk the earth. There will be children that come after you that have different points of views, that love differently, that want things a certain way, that has an environment whose norms are not like your own, whose agreements are not like yours in your head. Agreements that a lot of us don't even know to question. A lot of us feel like our identities fall apart once we start looking at certain things that we've been told and been trained and brainwashed to believe. You got people not even willing to look in the direction of any of the things that Kanye's saying because of what they've been told by the curtain. And they don't know that they've been told this by the curtain because they're not in the presence of understanding how to even question said things. They think these things are in their heads independently because they've been told certain things about certain things for so long. Hitler just being one example. So they don't even question it. Anti-Semitism, you can slap anti-Semitism on a sticker and slap it on the side of an apple and people won't pick up that apple. I kid you not. They won't pick up the apple. And that's the point of all of this. We need to understand while some of those things align with our virtues naturally because it is some right attached to it, a lot of that stuff is just that right there, that if they slap it on the side of an apple, we won't pick it up because we're that indoctrinated in their bull crap. And we can't tell the difference. So we end up fighting with ourselves about stuff like White Lives Matter shirts. And we should be able to wear them. Like all it does is show us exactly how far in the dumps we are as it pertains to our own intellectual independence. How much do I actually know about Hitler? Not to say that I don't believe what I heard, because I do. But I ain't do a bunch of homework on this dude. I don't know what was going on there. Not really. I know what they told me in school. And I also know what they did a whole lot of avoiding to tell me. Like stuff that I really, really need. So that curriculum doesn't hold the same weight that it used to, does it not? I think we can all agree that our curriculum back in 1997 didn't exactly lead up to what it is that we needed in 2022. So if I look at all the stuff that they taught me, I look at it through that lens. So they didn't tell me everything I needed to know. They didn't tell me anything I need to know about myself. They didn't tell me anything I need to know about managing my money. So I was set up to fail. I don't know who I am and I don't know what I'm doing, but they gave me all kinds of crap that'll teach me what is right and wrong so that I'd stay respectful of the curtain. And what I'm telling you is that was always wrong for our society. It left no room for us to be able to figure ourselves out without the presence of their agreements that were really in place politically a lot of times just for the times of the day. No different than a lot of stuff that we're doing that affects forever today. It was only meant for that day. They didn't give a damn what happened after that. They were the last people to walk the earth in their minds, just like us. Kanye West, I think I've spent 26 minutes making the exact same point you're trying to make, bro. And I did not at all praise someone who killed children. Because I know that God doesn't need me to move that way to use me properly. I know that. Just talk to him. I talked to God, and he was telling me, more or less, that it's very capable. It's very, very easy to make the point that Kanye's trying to make without offending an entire faith of people. Some of whom are babies, so they're definitely not involved in your conspiracy concerns. Some of which who have minds that can change or that can become very passionate about what it is we're talking about. But we're alienating them in a way by supporting the person who destroyed their great-great-great-great-grandmommy. Not cool, buddy. Just because some people did some horrible things to our great-great-grandmommy does not mean we get to celebrate someone who did something horrible to somebody else's great-great-grandmommy. We should be trying to help all the great-great-grandmommies by assuring that great-great-grandbabies don't have to live in a world like this anymore. That is my entire purpose. I don't want life to get harder for Jewish people because lies were told to black people by Jewish people, if that's what the truth was. I don't want that. Are you going to go to war now everybody's gone? I don't want that either. I want us to come to a point where we love one another, get rid of all the bad apples, send them into their graves, and let's keep on loving together. Racists are going to die. People like Hitler die. We need to carry forth the practices of people who didn't do things their way, who wanted to see people together, who wanted to live in a space where we may be annoyed by people's differences, but certainly learn to love people. We may be a little different. They may be a little different than us. They may be laughing a certain way. They may sing a certain way. They may have done some things in the past that we didn't like. They may have done some things in the past they probably need to pay for. And they need to pay for it. But we also need to be able to move on after that. We also need to assure that we're not turning around and mimicking the ways that they did so that they have a right to come and get us 400 years from now for the stuff that we about to do to them. Let's just not. Let's skip all that and do things the right way. So we don't have to have the wrath of God come down in various ways like the plague and weird weather and all kinds of weird stuff that's going to come. And we ain't going to have any idea how to handle it the right way, just like we didn't handle the pandemic the right way, because the foundation from which we start has so many holes. The foundation from which we start is just destined to fail with the hypocrisy. We're running out eventually. The rubber meets the road with all the hypocrisy we face, fellas. Ladies. And as I said a million times, the internet is going to prove and disprove a lot of lies. The presence of DNA and comparison data is going to disprove a lot of stuff that people have long held close to the chest as truth. And now is the time for people who are in the position to tell the truth to speak up. I think it would benefit a lot of people if you did, if you harbor these secrets that you know are about to get unearthed. It would probably be best to jump ahead of it, do God's work. That's what I'll say to you behind the curtain. You have a new purpose, if you're truly aligned with God, you know your purposes are new. And it's time for you to repent for all of your evil sins and all the evil stuff that you've done to the black people and to others as well. And it's time to understand what it is your new purpose is, because you harbor information that's going to carry us into the future. My name is BDF 44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.